Welcome back. In this video we're going to talk about clear coating, and as you can see here, this is after several coats of paint, and all of my sub-assemblies are the color desired. I've gone ahead and actually reassembled this just to show you almost like a preview of the proof of concept here, so you can see that the red and the blue look very nice together, and I've got the black spray painted control grip in there, the steering wheel, whatever you want to call it. So what we're going to do is lay these parts out minus the unpainted parts, so the treads in the seat have been moved off to the side, but I've got all the other accoutrements here, and we're going to clear coat them. What clear coating does is it protects the paint. That's not to say that the finish that you get will be indestructible, but it certainly helps. And in this case, minus the black of the slider bar here and these skis, everything else is gloss colored, or excuse me, is gloss sheen. So there's actually multiple sheens that you can get. So you've got, let's see if I can do this in the right order here, and we'll talk about the details of it after. Is you've got dull, flat, matte, semi-gloss, gloss, and then like aqua gloss or super gloss or wet look gloss. It's got a bunch of different names, and that's from ascending. That's an ascending order of shininess. So dull coat, which you can get by a company called Testers at a hobby store or wherever you get model kits from down in the States, I guess, is super flat. And that means that any shininess will be gone. And if we look at this original G.I. Joe part here, you can see that it has a slight sheen to it. So dull coating may be a bit of a stretch. It does have a use though, in that if you have different paints you've used where some are satin and some are gloss, and you want to unify them, which means make them all the same, then by dull coating it, you're knocking everything down to an ultra flat, and then you can actually put another clear coat on over top of that to bring it up to a uniform sheen. So even though you have different paints on there, they will all become uniform in their reflectivity or their shininess. So this here, as you can see, is highly glossy. And we're going to basically tone that down a bit with my go-to finish, which is a satin finish. This one's by Krylon. And you can see on the cap, usually the opacity on the cap, or how much you can see through it and how dull it is, will indicate what your final coat is. So satin is, in my opinion, above, I mean, it's certainly above dull coat, and it's above flat. It's just a nice slight sheen, a little bit more than flat, and not as much as a matte, and certainly not semi-gloss. Now the reason why I say that those are kind of my opinion is some people say that, well, matte is flat, or flat is dull, and matte is semi-gloss. I've done a bunch of models, and I think enough customs by now that I could successfully argue that it's not. The degree between them might be very small, but I think there is a noticeable difference. So I'm going to show you this piece again to see how reflective it is and how shiny it is. And now we're going to shake up our can, and we're going to apply our satin finish. But before we do that, one other tip is, if you're going to test it out on something that won't be seen, the surface first, because it may react with your paint, and that all depends on the paints you use and the environmental conditions. But pick a surface that's not going to be seen, just in case something bad happens. So here we go with our can shaking. And let's pop it in and see what happens. This is the same thing. Applying any clear coat is the same as when you apply color. It's nice short bursts on the can and applying in thin layers. So here we go. I'll do a test spray on the cardboard first. And nothing crazy happens, so let's put it on our discrete surface, if you will. And now we wait. And all we're checking for is to see if it reacts with the paint the way it should, in which case it should just dull down the gloss. It shouldn't actually damage the paint, and if it does, then we know that we won't use this particular can to do anything. The can could be old. There's a number of factors in there. Either way, don't put it on a showing surface. and you'll know to try something else or wait or warm the can up. All the tips I told you about before with spray painting apply to these clear coats as well, because it is still an aerosol. So let's do a quick pause and we'll come back when that's dry and we'll see how we did. And we're back. So I'm satisfied with the results. I've already given my can a good shake again. So now I'm going to go ahead and coat all of these with my clear coat. So let's begin. And this is pretty quick drying, so we will let that sit for a bit and we'll come back and look at the results. Fingers crossed. And there we go. We've satin coated these with Satin Finish, and we get to do a real-time troubleshooting session, which is my absolute favorite. So let's take a look at what happened here. Yeah, in this series you're going to see the customization process, warts and all. So if you look closely, you can kind of see there's a little bit of alteration in the color here after clear coating it. It happened a little bit on the inside and it looked like it was just drying, but it's actually changed the color of the paint, and there's some I don't know if the camera could pick it up or not, but almost, you know, when you see a drop of gasoline or something like that, that's happened in here as well. So it's likely I don't have my can warm enough, or maybe even that satin coat has expired. I found that Krylon satin coats sometimes have negative effects. So this happens in customization, right? It's not a big deal. It's not a game changer. It does set us back a bit, but all I'm going to do is recoat these with paint, and I'll likely try, oh yeah, look at that. I'll likely try another clear coat. So see if I can hold it at the right angle here, but you can see, maybe you can see, but there's severe discoloration right along here on the cowling. And even just trying to recoat it again to see if it would almost wet the previous coat and clear it up has created this fogginess here. So I'll have to disassemble this and respray. And that's not to be dissuasive, yeah, and even here it's gone on the engine cover here, and it's actually spiderwebbed a bit too, so we have multiple problems. And that's going to happen with customs, okay? It's not a deal breaker. I certainly don't feel embarrassed for having this happen to me. It does happen. So like I said, live troubleshooting is the best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate these parts and I'm going to repaint them, and we'll get back to you. So just hang on for a magical second. Okay, here we go. So like I said, warts and all, right? I realized one of my errors was that when I grabbed this satin can of finish, this is actually for canvases and stuff, so it's not meant for plastic. So I'm going to say that that's likely what caused the error. Stuff happens, so let's carry on. I'm also going to take this time to show you the right one. So there's Krylon Fusion, bonds to plastic, so we're better this time. But I also brought out my tester's dull coat, because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock this stuff completely flat and then bring it up with this clear coat here. Because I'd like you to see the effects of it. So I've done my test spray. This stuff is okay. Of course, I say that now and watch the whole thing, you know, go pear-shaped. However, I've already shaken it up. And you recall the gloss coat that this paint is, or this gloss paint. And how shiny it was. And there it is. So now we're going to let that sit for a couple of minutes. And I'll show you the end result of applying the dull coat. And while we're waiting, let's just talk about errors again. I make them, definitely. I still do. I don't even do most of my customization with spray cans anymore. I use my airbrush. It's much more forgiving. But for all the people out there just starting out, mistakes will happen. Don't let that discourage you. And it could be a mistake either you know, like me, and I picked the wrong can of clear coat. It was not meant for plastic, and sure, your stuff bonds to plastic. But it could be something else. It could be you picked the wrong color, or the color looked right at the time, and when you sprayed it, it didn't look good. These things will happen constantly. If I showed you my collection of spray cans for colors that weren't quite right or looked good on the shelf and didn't spray well, you may get a good chuckle out of it. So I guess my point is that in this, and even though I'm showing you these tutorials, errors will happen. Even the most professional of model builders and crafters and all that stuff have mistakes happen, and that's not to discourage you. I mean, you saw that error I made, and now all of YouTube can see it, or whoever watches this. So anyway, bottom line is, when you make a mistake, just stop, see what the problem is, fix it, and carry on. Because as you can see, everything's shiny in its original color again, and now we've got some dull coat sitting on here, so we're laughing. So let's do a pause for this stuff to dry, and we will carry on. And here we go. There's the demo of how flat it gets with Tester's dull coat. That's only, one decent enough coat on it, but it knocks it down quite excellently. In fact, the only reason that it's showing something is the plastic itself is so smooth, and the paint itself was so glossy. It was damn near a mirror finish on it. So I'll show you this the main body here up close as well. You can see the amount of light reflectivity has really gone down compared to the underside, which is still very shiny. Catches the color flash there and not there. So I'm going to do the rest of this vehicle up, and we'll call that the clear coating process, and we'll meet up again for the final touch-ups and sticker application. So thanks for watching. Click the like button and subscribe if you think my content's good enough to stick around for. And take care, and remember, have fun.